The massive black fortress hung in space like a dark star. Inside its metal walls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered around a crystal table that glowed with pale blue light. These were the rulers of the Valdari Empire, and they had never known defeat. High Commander Vextar stood at the head of the table, his tall frame covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. His red eyes moved across the faces of his fellow commanders. Each one had conquered entire star systems. Each one had brought countless worlds under Valdari control. "We have a problem," Vextar said, his voice deep and cold. Admiral Kethmos laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the chamber. "What problem could we possibly have? We rule half the galaxy. Every species we have met has fallen before us." Vextar activated the hologram projector. A small blue planet appeared above the table, spinning slowly. "This world," he said. "The third planet in a system they call Sol. The creatures there call themselves humans." "Humans?" General Mordak leaned forward. "I have never heard of them." "Few have," Vextar replied. "They are a young species. According to our scouts, they have barely left their own world. They use chemical rockets and primitive nuclear weapons." The other commanders looked at each other. Some smiled. Some shook their heads. "Then why are we wasting time on them?" Admiral Kethmos asked. "Send a small fleet. Take their world. Add it to the Empire." Vextar's expression did not change. "3 of our scout ships have gone to that system. None have returned." The room became quiet. Scout ships did not simply disappear. They were fast, well-armed, and carried the best technology in the galaxy. "Equipment failure," suggested General Mordak. "Or perhaps they encountered some natural phenomenon." "Perhaps," Vextar said. But his tone showed he did not believe it. Admiral Kethmos stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across the table. He was the largest of the commanders, with scars covering his arms and face. He had personally led the attack on the crystal cities of Nexar Prime. He had been there when the hive minds of Thurok 7 finally surrendered. "I will take a fleet to this human world," he declared. "Whatever happened to our scouts, these primitives will learn what it means to face the Valdari Empire." "How large a fleet?" Vextar asked. Kethmos smiled, showing sharp teeth. 100 ships. My best warriors. The Crimson Guard." Several commanders nodded with approval. The Crimson Guard were legends even among the Valdari. They were soldiers who had been changed by science, made stronger and faster than normal beings. Their red armor was known across the galaxy. In 300 years of war, they had never been defeated. "The humans will serve as good practice for our newest recruits." Kethmos continued. "My warriors need something to do. They grow restless without a proper war." General Mordak activated his personal display. Images of battles flashed before them. Burning cities, defeated armies, entire species kneeling before Valdari might. "Look at our record," Mordak said. The stone people of Kepler 442, the metal beings of Wolf 359, the energy creatures from the Vega system. All of them had technology we had never seen before. All of them fell within days of first contact. "This is different," Vextar insisted. "Something about this situation troubles me. Why would 3 separate scout missions fail against a primitive species?" "Because you worry too much, old friend," Kethmos said, placing a heavy hand on Vextar's shoulder. "You see shadows where there are none. These humans are just another species waiting to join our empire." The other commanders agreed. They had heard similar concerns before, usually right before another easy victory. The pattern was always the same: initial worry, quick battle, total victory. Commander Zethra, the youngest of the group, pulled up tactical displays. "Our intelligence shows they have perhaps a few hundred spacecraft. Most are used for moving goods between their planets. Their weapons are based on chemical explosives and simple energy beams." "Pathetic," laughed Admiral Kethmos. "Our shields can stop their best weapons without even powering up fully." "When do you leave?" asked General Mordak. "Tomorrow," Kethmos replied. "I want to finish this quickly. There are real wars to fight in the outer systems." Vextar watched the hologram of Earth spinning above the table. Something about this small blue world made him uneasy. In his long career, he had learned to trust his instincts. They had kept him alive through countless battles. "Admiral," he said carefully, "perhaps you should take more ships. A larger force." Kethmos turned to face him, his red eyes flashing with annoyance. "Are you questioning my judgment? I have conquered more worlds than any commander in this room." "I am not questioning your skill," Vextar replied. I am questioning our information about these humans. Our scouts are the best in the galaxy, Commander Zethra said. Their reports are always accurate. The scouts who disappeared? Vextar asked. The room fell silent again. It was a good point, and everyone knew it. Admiral Kethmos slammed his fist on the crystal table, making it ring like a bell. Enough! I will not be made to look like a coward because of missing scout ships. Tomorrow I leave for the Sol system with 100 ships and 10,000 of our finest warriors. In 1 week I will return with news of another human world added to our empire. The other commanders cheered. This was the kind of confidence they were used to. This was how the Valdari had built their empire, through strength, determination, and absolute belief in their own superiority. Only Vextar remained quiet. He stared at the image of Earth, trying to understand what bothered him so much about it. The planet looked peaceful, almost defenseless. Its blue oceans and white clouds reminded him of worlds he had seen destroyed in past wars. But something was different about this one. Something he could not name. As the meeting ended and the commanders left to prepare for the coming campaign, Vexitar remained in the chamber. He stood alone with the hologram of Earth, watching it turn in the artificial light. What secrets do you hide, little world? He whispered to himself. He would find out soon enough. Admiral Kethmos would see to that. But somehow Vextar knew that when the answer came, it would change everything. The Valdari fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like sharks smelling blood in the water. 100 warships stretched across space, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators. Each ship was 5 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Admiral Kethmos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Edge. Around him, his officers worked at glowing control panels, their faces lit by the soft blue light of their displays. Through the massive view screen, he could see the small yellow star that these humans called their sun. Report, he commanded. Long-range sensors show multiple contacts throughout the system, reported his tactical officer. Primitive spacecraft moving between the inner planets. Some appear to be military vessels. Kethmos smiled. How many? Perhaps 50 ships, Admiral. All small. All using chemical propulsion. 50 ships, Kethmos repeated with amusement. They send 50 ships against 100 of ours. He turned to address his bridge crew. These humans either have great courage or great stupidity. His communications officer looked up from her station. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessels. Put it on screen. The view screen flickered and suddenly a human face appeared before them. The being looked young by Valdari standards with dark hair and calm brown eyes. He wore a dark blue uniform with strange symbols on the collar. I am Captain Dongwu Park of the United Nations Space Force, the human said. His voice was steady without fear. You have entered our solar system without permission. State your intentions. The bridge fell silent. Every Valdari officer stared at the screen in amazement. This primitive creature was making demands of them. Admiral Kethmos began to laugh, a sound that grew louder until it filled the entire bridge. Your intentions? Kethmos finally managed to say. Our intentions are simple, little human. Your species will now serve the Valdari Empire. Your ships will surrender immediately, or we will destroy them. Captain Park's expression did not change. That is not acceptable. Not acceptable? Kethmos could hardly believe what he was hearing. Do you understand what you face? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our weapons can turn your planets to dust. Perhaps, Park replied calmly. But you will find that conquering humanity is not as simple as you believe. Kethmos had heard such brave words before. Every species spoke of resistance in those first moments. They all fell in the end. Very well, he said. Let me demonstrate the power you now face. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the largest asteroid in their belt. Full-power plasma cannon. Show these humans what happens to those who defy us. The weapons officer worked at his controls. On the view screen, targeting information appeared around a massive space rock floating between Mars and Jupiter. Target locked, Admiral. Fire. A brilliant beam of energy shot from the Valdari flagship. The asteroid, easily 10 kilometers across, simply vanished in a flash of white light. Where solid rock had been moments before, now only glowing particles drifted through space. The Valdari crew cheered. It was always satisfying to demonstrate their power to new species. On the screen, Captain Park watched the destruction without emotion. When it was over, he looked directly at Admiral Kethmos. Thank you for the fireworks display. Park said. Now let us show you ours. Before Kethmos could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. His tactical officer's voice was filled with shock. Admiral, energy signatures spiking throughout the human fleet. They're ships. They're not what they appeared to be. On the view screen, the human vessels began to change. What had looked like simple metal hulls suddenly revealed hidden weapons ports. Long-range sensors that had read them as primitive now showed energy readings that made no sense. Impossible, whispered the tactical officer. Their weapons are charging to levels that should destroy their own ships. Captain Park smiled for the first time. Admiral Kethmos, you made a mistake. You assumed that because we choose to build our ships differently, we are less advanced than you. You are about to learn why that assumption was wrong. The first human ship fired. Instead of the weak energy beams the Valdari expected, a projectile shot out at nearly the speed of light. It struck the Valdari heavy cruiser Iron Fist and punched straight through its shields as if they were made of paper. The massive warship broke apart in a chain of explosions that lit up space like a second. Son Kethmos stared in shock. The Iron Fist had been one of his most powerful vessels. Its shields had withstood the combined fire of entire enemy fleets. How had a single shot from a primitive human ship destroyed it so completely? All ships, return fire, he commanded. The Valdari fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes filled space with deadly light. But something was wrong. The humans were not where they were supposed to be. Sir, reported his tactical officer, the human ships are moving in patterns our targeting computers cannot predict. Their flight paths make no tactical sense. Indeed, the human vessels were moving like no military ships the Valdari had ever seen. They twisted and turned through space in ways that seemed random, impossible to track or target. Yet somehow their own weapons found their marks with deadly accuracy. Another Valdari ship exploded, then another. The humans were using weapons that the Valdari sensors could barely detect until they hit. Kinetic projectiles moving at speeds that turned them into pure energy when they struck. On the human flagship, Captain Park stood calmly on his bridge while chaos erupted around the Valdari fleet. His tactical officer, a woman named Mi-Young Lee, worked at her station with quiet efficiency. Ma'am, said one of her technicians, we're receiving targeting data from Luna Base. They've been tracking Valdari shield frequencies since their ships entered the system. Mi-Young nodded. For years, human scientists had studied fragments of alien technology found in space. They had prepared for this day, building weapons designed specifically to counter Valdari defenses. Send the updated frequencies to all ships, she commanded, and activate the second wave. Throughout the asteroid belt, objects that had looked like ordinary space rocks suddenly came to life. Dozens of hidden human warships powered up their systems, surrounding the Valdari fleet from all directions. Admiral Kethmos watched his tactical display in growing horror as new contacts appeared everywhere around his fleet. They had flown directly into a trap. How many ships do they have? He demanded. I don't know, sir, his tactical officer replied. Sensors are detecting new contacts every few seconds. Some of these readings are coming from inside asteroids themselves. On the main screen, Captain Park's face remained calm. Admiral, you came here expecting to find a primitive species that would surrender without a fight. Instead, you found humanity. We have been preparing for this day for longer than you know. Another Valdari ship died. Its hull cracked open like an egg by a human kinetic weapon. Then another. All ships retreat, Kethmos commanded. Fall back to the edge of the system. But as his fleet tried to withdraw, they discovered another unpleasant surprise. The humans had been herding them, using their seemingly random movements to push the Valdari ships into a killing zone where escape was nearly impossible. Captain Park's voice came over the communication system one last time. You came to our system with 100 ships and 10,000 warriors, Admiral. You expected easy victory against a primitive species, but you forgot something important. What? Kethmos asked, his voice barely a whisper. Humans do not surrender. We adapt, we learn, and when we are threatened, we fight back with everything we have. The battle raged for 3 more hours. When it was over, only 30 Valdari ships limped away from the Sol system. The rest floated as burning wreckage, testimony to human determination and preparation. Admiral Kethmos sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed his losses. 70 ships, 7,000 warriors, all lost to a species he had dismissed as primitive. For the first time in his long career, he had tasted defeat. And somehow he knew this was only the beginning. High Commander Vextar sat in his private chambers aboard the fortress station, reading the battle reports from the Sol system. The glowing text scrolled across his personal display, each line more disturbing than the last. 70 ships lost. 7,000 elite warriors dead. Admiral Kethmos barely escaped with his remaining forces. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Vextar called. Admiral Kethmos walked into the chamber, his proud bearing replaced by something Vextar had never seen before: uncertainty. The great warrior's armor bore scorch marks from the battle, and his red eyes had lost their usual fire. "You were right," Kethmos said simply. "I should have listened." Vextar gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Tell me everything. Leave out nothing." For the next hour, Kethmos described the battle in detail: how the human ships had appeared primitive but fought with advanced weapons, how they moved in patterns that made no sense but somehow worked perfectly, how hidden ships had emerged from asteroids to surround his fleet. "They were ready for us," Kethmos concluded. "Everything about the battle felt planned, as if they knew exactly how we would attack." Vextar nodded slowly. "Because they did know. I have spent the last few days reviewing our intelligence files on the humans. What I found disturbs me greatly." He activated his wall display, showing a star map of the region around Earth. Red dots marked the locations where Valdari ships had operated over the past 50 years. "Look at this pattern," Vextar said. "Our scout ships, our trade vessels, our military patrols, all of them passed through this region of space. All of them could have been observed by human monitoring stations." Kethmos frowned. "You think they have been watching us?" "I think they have been studying us for decades. Learning our tactics, understanding our technology, preparing for the day we would find their world." On Earth, Dr. Jamin Choi stood before a massive wall of displays in the Strategic Intelligence Center, buried deep beneath the mountains of Korea. Around him, hundreds of technicians worked at computer stations, analyzing data streams from across the galaxy. "Sir," called one of his assistants, "we're receiving new intelligence from the Kepler network." Jamin nodded. The Kepler network was humanity's greatest secret, a series of hidden monitoring stations spread throughout nearby star systems. For 40 years they had watched and listened as alien ships passed by, recording everything. "What do we have?" he asked. "Movement in the Valdari home systems. Large fleet formations gathering near their primary worlds. Looks like they're preparing something big." Jamin had expected this. The destruction of Admiral Kethmos's fleet would not go unanswered. The Valdari Empire had ruled through strength for centuries. They would not allow a defeat by primitive humans to stand. He turned to another workstation, where Captain Sujin Kang was reviewing star charts. She commanded one of humanity's most advanced reconnaissance ships, invisible to most sensors and capable of traveling deep into enemy territory. "Captain," Jamin said, "I need you to take your ship to the Valdari core worlds. We need to know what they're planning." Sujin looked up from her charts. "How close do you want me to get?" "Close enough to count their ships, close enough to see their battle plans, but not close enough to start a war we're not ready for." Sujin smiled. "Don't worry, Doctor. My ship is very good at not being seen." Back on the Valdari fortress, Vexitar was making a disturbing discovery. He had ordered a complete review of all captured personnel from their recent wars, and what he found changed everything. "The 3 scout ships that disappeared near Earth," he told his intelligence officer. "You said they were destroyed?" "That was our assumption, sir. No wreckage was ever found. I want you to review the personnel files of those crews, cross-reference them with our prisoner exchange records from the past 5 years." The intelligence officer worked at his terminal for several minutes, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, this is very strange. According to our medical records, all 3 ship crews reported for duty just last month. They claim they escaped from the human system and made their way home." Vextar felt a chill run through him. "Bring me the crew of the scout ship Silent Hunter. I want to speak with them personally." An hour later, 3 Valdari officers stood before Vextar's desk. They looked healthy and normal, showing no signs of having been prisoners. Their leader, Commander Thekvar, seemed proud as he reported on their mission. "We conducted a full survey of the human system," Thekvar said. "We observed their primitive ships and weapons. We gathered intelligence on their military capabilities. When human patrol ships detected us, we were forced to engage in combat. We destroyed several of their vessels before escaping." Vextar listened carefully to every word. Something about the report felt wrong, but he could not identify what it was. "Tell me about their weapons," he said. "Simple energy beams, sir. Chemical explosives. Nothing that could threaten our ship seriously. And their ship movements? Their tactical formations? Basic patterns, sir. Predictable and easy to counter. They showed no real understanding of advanced space combat." Vextar dismissed the crew and called for his medical officer. "I want complete scans of those 3 men. Genetic analysis, brain patterns, everything." The medical examination took 6 hours. When the results came back, Vexitar understood the true scope of human deception. Each of the 3 officers carried microscopic devices in their bloodstream. The devices were so small and so advanced that Valdari medical scanners could barely detect them. "These are transmitters," his medical officer explained. "They're sending signals we cannot decode. But, sir, the construction is far beyond anything we believed humans capable of building." Vextar stood at his window looking out at the stars. The humans had not simply captured Valdari scouts. They had studied them, learned from them, and then sent them back as unknowing spies. Every piece of intelligence the Empire possessed about humanity was potentially false. Worse, these human-made transmitters were now providing real-time intelligence to Earth. The humans knew every move the Valdari made almost before they made it. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "Grand Admiral Vorthak is arriving from the core worlds. He brings orders from the High Council." Vextar had expected this as well. Grand Admiral Vorthak commanded the largest battle fleet in Valdari history. If the Empire was calling him to deal with the human problem, they were planning something massive. 2 days later, Vorthak's flagship arrived at the fortress. The Grand Admiral was ancient by Valdari standards, his scarred face marking him as a veteran of the great wars that had built the Empire. He had personally led the final assault on the crystal cities of Nexar Prime. "The High Council is not pleased," Vorthak announced at their first meeting. "A defeat by primitives cannot be tolerated. It makes us appear weak to every species in the galaxy." "These humans are not primitives," Vextar replied. "They are far more dangerous than we initially believed." "So I have heard, which is why I am here with the largest fleet ever assembled. 10,000 ships, 50 million warriors. We will end this human threat permanently." Vextar studied the tactical displays showing Vorthak's massive fleet. It was indeed an impressive force, larger than the fleets that had conquered entire star systems, but somehow he still felt uneasy. "Grand Admiral," he said carefully, "I recommend caution. The humans have shown they are capable of sophisticated deception. They may be preparing for exactly this kind of attack." Vorthak's laugh filled the chamber. "Let them prepare. No amount of preparation can stand against 50 million Valdari warriors. We will crush their fleet, occupy their worlds, and end their species." As the meeting continued, Vextar thought about the tiny transmitters found in his scout crews. Right now, those devices were probably sending every word of this conversation to Earth. The humans would know the exact size of the fleet coming for them. They would know when it would arrive. And somehow, Vextar suspected they were already planning their response. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, Dr. J. Min Choi smiled as he read the intelligence reports flowing in from the Valdari fortress. 50 million warriors, 10,000 ships, the largest fleet in galactic history, all heading for Earth. "Perfect," he said quietly. "Everything is going exactly according to plan." The largest fleet in galactic history dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a metal storm. 10,000 Valdari warships spread across space in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready for battle. Grand Admiral Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship Empire's Wrath. watching the small blue planet that had caused so much trouble. "Report," he commanded. His tactical officer worked at the sensor display, confusion growing on his face. "Sir, I'm detecting very few human ships in the system. Perhaps 100 vessels, all small. They appear to be retreating toward their homeworld." Vorthak smiled with satisfaction. "They see the size of our fleet and they run like frightened animals. Good. Let them gather around their planet. We will destroy them all at once." High Commander Vexitar stood beside the Grand Admiral, studying the tactical readouts with growing concern. The human response seemed too simple, too predictable. After what happened to Admiral Kethmos, he had expected something more sophisticated. "Sir," he said carefully, "perhaps we should proceed with caution. The humans may be trying to draw us into another trap." Vorthak's red eyes flashed with annoyance. "High Commander, I appreciate your concerns. But look around you. 10,000 ships, 50 million of our finest warriors. Even if this is a trap, we have the firepower to break through any defense." The Grand Admiral turned to his fleet communications officer. "Signal all ships. Battle formation. We advance on the human homeworld." The massive fleet began to move inward, their engines creating a light show that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. As they passed through the outer system, sensors detected only scattered human vessels that quickly fled before the advancing armada. "They're not even trying to fight," observed Admiral Kethmos, who had been given command of the fleet's vanguard. "Their ships are running as fast as they can toward Earth." On the human command ship Defiance, Captain Dongwoo Park watched the Valdari fleet's approach with calm eyes. Around him, his bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They had been preparing for this moment for months. "Status report," Park requested. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Mi Young Lee, looked up from her displays. "All asteroid positions report ready, sir. Hidden fleet formations are in position. Luna Base confirms all weapon systems are online." Park nodded. The retreating human ships were not running in fear. They were leading the Valdari fleet exactly where humanity wanted them to go. "Signal all units," Park commanded. "Execute Plan Anvil on my mark." The Valdari fleet continued its advance, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They passed through the asteroid belt without incident, noting only scattered pieces of space rock and a few fleeing human cargo ships. The path to Earth lay open before them. Grand Admiral Vorthak was pleased with their progress. "Human resistance has collapsed completely. We will be in orbit around their homeworld within 6 hours." "Sir," interrupted his sensor operator, "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt." Vorthak barely glanced at the display. "Probably their mining equipment powering down as they flee. Continue the advance." But High Commander Vextar was studying the sensor data more carefully. The energy readings were too regular, too organized to be random industrial activity. They reminded him of something he had seen before, during the Great Siege of Thurok 7. "Grand Admiral," he said urgently, "I recommend we halt the fleet. These readings," his words were cut off as space around them suddenly came alive with light. Throughout the asteroid belt, objects that had appeared to be ordinary space rocks revealed their true nature. Massive weapon platforms built into hollowed-out asteroids powered up simultaneously. Fusion reactors hidden inside planetary cores fed energy to weapons that had been waiting in darkness for months. Commander Hyunwoo Nam sat in the command center of Asteroid Base, Ceres, watching as his screens showed the Valdari fleet entering the kill zone. Around him, weapons officers prepared to unleash firepower that had been building for years. "All stations report ready," announced his tactical coordinator. "Target the largest ships first," Nam ordered. "We want to break their formation and create chaos." The asteroid weapons fired in perfect coordination. Streams of particles accelerated to near light speed, struck the Valdari fleet from directions they had never thought to defend. The first salvo destroyed 12 of their largest battleships, each one taking thousands of warriors with it. On the Empire's wrath, alarm screamed as the bridge crew tried to understand what was happening. "We're under attack," shouted the tactical officer. "Weapons fire coming from the asteroid belt." "Impossible," Vorthak roared. "Our sensors showed nothing but rocks." More Valdari ships died as the hidden human weapons continued their bombardment. But the asteroids were only the beginning of humanity's surprise. From the far side of Earth's moon, another fleet of human warships emerged. These vessels had been hiding in the moon's gravity shadow, completely invisible to Valdari sensors. They struck the alien fleet's flank with weapons designed specifically to counter Valdari shield technology. Lieutenant Yun-ji, Song led a squadron of human fighter craft in an attack that defied every rule of space combat. Her small ships moved in patterns that seemed completely random, making them impossible for Valdari targeting computers to track. Remember, she told her pilots over the comm system, their computers expect logical behavior, so we give them chaos instead. The human fighters danced through space like leaves in a windstorm, each one following flight paths generated by chaos mathematics. The Valdari point defense systems, designed to counter predictable attack patterns, could not cope with such randomness. Song's squadron swept through the enemy formation, their weapons causing far more damage than their small size should have allowed. Each fighter carried warheads specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in Valdari armor that human scientists had discovered through decades of study. "Sir," Vorthak's communications officer called out over the noise of battle. "We're receiving a message from the human fleet." "Put it through," the Grand Admiral commanded, his voice tight with rage. Captain Park's calm face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiance showed no signs of panic despite the massive battle raging around them. "Grand Admiral Vorthak," Park said politely, "welcome to our solar system. I hope you are enjoying your visit." "How dare you?" Vorthak raged. "You attack us with hidden weapons. You fight without honor." Park's expression remained calm. "Honor? You came to our system with 50 million warriors to destroy our entire species. And you speak of honor?" On the tactical displays, more Valdari ships were dying every minute. The hidden asteroid bases were proving impossible to destroy, their weapons protected by hundreds of meters of solid rock. The random movements of the human fighter squadrons were causing chaos throughout the alien formation. "This is impossible," whispered Admiral Kethmos. "How can primitives fight like this?" High Commander Vextar was studying the battle patterns with growing understanding. "They're not primitives," he said quietly. "They never were. Everything we believed about them was false." More human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the system. Some had been disguised as space debris, others had been powered down and drifting, appearing to be derelicts. Each one carried weapons that struck at Valdari weaknesses with surgical precision. The battle that was supposed to be a simple conquest had become a nightmare. The Valdari fleet, despite its massive size, was being torn apart by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. "All ships," Vorthak commanded, "reform defensive positions. Prepare to withdraw." But as his fleet tried to regroup, they discovered that the humans had planned for this too. Every escape route had been mapped and blocked. Human ships appeared at calculated interception points, cutting off any hope of retreat. Captain Park's voice came over the communication system one final time. "Grand Admiral, you made the same mistake as Admiral Kethmos. You assumed that because we choose to build differently, we are less capable than you. But you forgot something important about humans." "What?" Vorthak asked, his voice barely audible over the sound of his dying fleet. "When we are threatened with extinction, we do not simply fight harder. We fight smarter. We prepare, we adapt, and we ensure that those who threaten us never get the chance to do so again." The battle raged for 12 hours. When it was over, less than 1,000 Valdari ships remained from the fleet of 10,000. The largest military force in galactic history had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing into deep space. Grand Admiral Vorthak sat in his damaged command chair, staring at displays that showed the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. Around him, bridge officers worked desperately to keep their ship operational long enough to escape. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Valdari Empire had suffered a defeat so complete that it threatened their very existence. And somehow he knew that the humans were not finished with them yet. The remnants of the once mighty Valdari fleet limped through space, their proud ships reduced to smoking wrecks. What had been 10,000 warships just days before was now fewer than 800 damaged vessels, fleeing desperately toward the edge of the Sol system. Grand Admiral Vorthak stood in the ruins of his command bridge, watching his officers try to coordinate the retreat. Half his control stations were dead, and emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the damaged walls. Through the cracked view screen, he could see the scattered debris of his fallen fleet stretching across space like a graveyard. "Status report," he commanded, his voice hoarse from breathing smoke. His tactical officer, one arm in a makeshift sling, looked up from a barely functioning display. Sir, we have confirmed contact with 734 ships. Most are heavily damaged. Many will not survive the journey to hyperspace. Forthak closed his red eyes in pain. 49 million warriors dead. The pride of the Valdari Empire destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The High Council would demand answers he did not have. Sir, his navigation officer called out, we have a problem. Human ships are appearing at our planned jump coordinates. On his personal command screen, High Commander Vextar studied the tactical situation with growing despair. The humans were not content to simply defeat the invasion fleet. They were hunting down every single survivor with methodical precision. How? He asked quietly.
How do they know our escape routes?
Dr. Guy Taiyun sat in his laboratory deep beneath Seoul, watching data streams from the battle flow across his monitors. For years he had studied Valdari psychology and behavior patterns, learning to predict their actions with scientific accuracy. They will attempt to escape through these 7 hyperspace jump points, he told his staff, indicating positions on a 3-dimensional star map. Their military doctrine requires them to use the shortest routes to safety, regardless of tactical considerations. His assistant, a young woman named So-Young Kim, looked up from her own workstation. Admiral Kim's task force is already in position at all 7 points. The Valdari won't escape. Admiral So-Young Kim commanded the human pursuit fleet, a force of fast ships designed specifically for hunting fleeing enemies. Unlike the Valdari, who fought for conquest and glory, her crews understood they were fighting for the survival of their entire species. Remember, she told her squadron commanders over the fleet communication system, we cannot allow any Valdari ship to reach their home territory. If even one vessel escapes to tell the Empire what happened here, they will return with everything they have. Her flagship, the Hunter's Moon, dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of a group of fleeing Valdari cruisers. The alien ships, already damaged from the main battle, had no chance against fresh human warships armed with weapons designed to exploit every weakness in Valdari technology. Target their engines first, Kim ordered. Disable them, then destroy them. Tow survivors. The human pursuit ships moved through space like predators, picking off isolated Valdari vessels one by one. Some alien ships tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered by human captains who had studied Valdari tactics for decades. Commander Hyunwoo Nam led another hunter group, his ships emerging from asteroid shadows to ambush Valdari survivors trying to hide among the space rocks. His crews worked with quiet efficiency, each kill bringing humanity one step closer to complete victory. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we've detected a large Valdari group trying to reach Jump Point 7. Admiral Kim is requesting support. Nam checked his navigation display. Jump Point 7 was where the largest concentration of surviving Valdari ships was gathering. If any group had a chance to escape, it would be them. Set course for Point 7, he commanded. Maximum speed. High Commander Vextar sat in his private quarters aboard the damaged Empire's Wrath, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. The humans had not simply outfought them, they had outthought them at every step. A communication chime interrupted his thoughts. Enter, he called. Admiral Kethmos limped into the chamber, his proud bearing broken by defeat. Burns covered half his face and his right arm hung useless at his side. The humans are destroying our ships faster than we can reach the jump points, Kethmos reported. They know exactly where we're going and how we'll try to get there. Vextar nodded slowly. Because they studied us. For years, perhaps decades, they watched our fleets and learned our patterns. Every battle we fought, every tactical manual we wrote, every decision we made, they analyzed all of it. But how is that possible? We never even knew they existed until a few months ago. Think about it, Vextar said. How many times have our ships passed through this region of space? How many battles have we fought in nearby systems? The humans could have been watching us for generations, learning everything about how we wage war. Outside their ship, the hunt continued. Human vessels appeared from hiding places throughout the solar system, each one carrying weapons specifically designed to kill Valdari warriors. They moved with deadly purpose, coordinating their attacks through communication, systems the aliens could not intercept or understand. Captain Su-Jin Kang commanded a stealth reconnaissance ship that shadowed the largest group of Valdari survivors. Her vessel was invisible to their sensors, allowing her to report their exact position and course to the hunter fleets. This is Shadow Walker, she transmitted to Admiral Kim. Target group is approaching jump point 7. Estimated arrival in 40 minutes. They have approximately 60 ships, including Admiral Vorthak's flagship. Acknowledged, Shadowwalker, Kim replied. All hunter groups converge on point 7. We end this now. The final confrontation took place at the edge of the solar system, where space began to thin out toward the interstellar void. Grand Admiral Vorthak's remaining ships gathered in a defensive formation around the hyperspace jump point, their weapons trained outward as they prepared their escape. Jump calculations complete, reported his navigation officer. We can depart in 10 minutes. But even as he spoke, human ships began appearing around them. Admiral Kim's pursuit fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, surrounding the Valdari survivors completely. Sir, the tactical officer called out, we're receiving a communication from the human fleet. Vorthak straightened his shoulders, trying to maintain his dignity even in defeat. Put it through. Captain Dongwoo Park appeared on the main screen, his calm expression unchanged despite the massive battles he had just won. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiance hummed with quiet activity. Grand Admiral Vorthak, Park said politely, your fleet is surrounded. Your hyperspace route is blocked. I am offering you one final chance to surrender. Vorthak's laugh was bitter and hollow. Surrender? Do you think we will submit to slavery like the other species you have conquered? We are not conquerors, Park replied. We are defenders. You came to our system to destroy us. We are simply ensuring that you cannot threaten us again. Then what do you want? Park's expression remained calm, but his words carried the weight of absolute determination. We want to make certain that the Valdari Empire never attacks humanity again. That means no survivors to carry word back to your homeworlds. The meaning was clear. This was not a battle for conquest or territory. This was a war of extinction, and the humans intended to win it completely. All ships, Vorthak commanded, his voice steady despite the hopelessness of their situation. Prepare for final battle. We die as warriors. The last battle of the Valdari invasion fleet lasted only 30 minutes. When it was over, the space around Jump Point 7 was filled with wreckage and expanding clouds of plasma. Not a single Valdari ship escaped to carry word of their defeat to the Empire. Captain Park stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display show the last alien contacts disappearing from his screens. Around him, his crew worked quietly, already beginning the process of cleaning up the battlefield. Sir, his communications officer reported, Admiral Kim confirms that all enemy contacts have been eliminated. No survivors detected. Park nodded, but there was no celebration on his face. This had been necessary, but it was not something to rejoice about. 50 million beings had died in the past few days, all because their empire had chosen to see humanity as weak. Signal all ships, he commanded. Begin recovery operations. And prepare long-range reconnaissance missions to the Valdari core worlds. Sir? His tactical officer asked with surprise. The Valdari will wonder what happened to their great fleet, Park explained. When they do not return home, the Empire will send investigators. We need to be ready for them. In the depths of space, the wreckage of the greatest military force in galactic history drifted silently among the stars. The Valdari Empire, which had ruled through strength for 3 centuries, had suffered a defeat so complete that it would echo through history. But on the distant fortress stations of the Empire, the High Council waited for news from their Grand Admiral. They had no way of knowing that their mighty fleet had been destroyed, their finest warriors killed, and their dreams of easy conquest turned into humanity's greatest victory. The elite had come to defeat humanity. None survived to tell the tale.